Hello everyone, welcome back for another book review. So today we are talking about this book. This is Cunningham's Book of Shadows, The Path of the American Traditionalist by Scott Cunningham. Now if you don't know the backstory, this came out in 2009 and basically they took the manuscript-ish thing that he had in an envelope and it had some things in it, some rituals, some correspondences, different notes and stuff, and compiled it with other books that he had written to make this. So if you loved Wicca, A Guide to the Solitary Practitioner, or Living Wicca, which is like the kind of sequel to that book, and you wanted to have rituals to go right alongside it, kind of, this is your book. I say kind of because those books really aimed towards solitary practitioners. This aims for a lot more of the traditional coven setting, not a solitary. And it does have a kind of different vibe than a lot of his work, and my current theory is that this is all old. This is before he was published, and before he had kind of refined who his target audience was, and especially as a published author. What he did in his spare time with people in, IRL is completely different. But like, as a published author, his target audience had become solitary. And this isn't really solitary. A lot of this is talk to your high priest, talk to your high priestess, and your coven mates. And a lot of us do not have that. And so a lot of the rituals, like, you will have to adapt if you want to stick with them. They're also kind of dated. Again, older Wicca styles. Like, I took only a couple notes, like itty bitty little list, and they're not in order. But on page 61, he talks about like, a woman should invoke the goddess and a man the god. And I'm like, but why? Like, why? And I've never understood that. I don't love being gendered and put in an itty bitty little box that it's like, you're a woman, you have to do this. You're a man, you get to do this. Never loved that. And I don't know if it's just like where I'm at right now in my life. And, having just read the old book that was real hardcore on like women, just don't listen to them vibes. But I didn't love that. Really didn't. Because again, in his other books, he really doesn't do that too much of like, oh, you're a woman, you have to do this. And if you're a man, then you can do this. Like, I don't love gendering things in the craft. I find it really stupid, honestly, because I don't know what in the world makes a wand to be like, the wand and the athame have to be masculine, and the chalice and whatever has to be like feminine, and like the pentacle has to be feminine. Like, I don't get it. Like, oh, but it's phallic shaped and it's womb shaped, and I'm like, have you noticed that like there's other options though? Like, the chalice could be hand shaped, and that's what we originally used, was your hand to drink water. Doesn't need to be a body part that's way deep inside, and most of us have never actually seen a real one. We've seen diagrams that were drawn up. That's it. You don't usually, some fields do. You're cutting into people's. You probably see them. But for the majority of people, we're not doing that. So we only have diagrams and like Google Images if you really wanted to get freaky with your life. Because I don't need to see insides. But also like, but it's phallic shaped. AKA it's a penis. I don't get why we care. Because it could also be arm shaped and finger. Because again, if you don't have your tools, this is your replacement. So like, I don't love having to gender things. Let alone when I go to the gods. Like, I would, like, they're talking about how it's like the mother goddess and the father god. So it's like, why am I not allowed to talk to the father god figure? Why? Why am I not allowed to invite him to the dinner table, so to speak, Like, my dad would have zero problem if I called him, versus my brother called him, to invite him to a mutual family get-together, So I don't love that, and I never have, and I really don't like that. I think that men should just as equally call on the goddesses as they do the gods, and women should do the same, and the non-binary, and the trans, and every other freaking label that's out there that I'm probably missing. I don't actively try and stay on top of it, but like, again, it's not my place to like fight that fight, really, but it's just like the times like this where it's like, no, like, I don't need to have my husband call on Thor and Odin for me in our ritual, you know? Like, do it as a joint effort, which is what we do when we call on the gods. Like when we did our ritual together after our wedding, like that, we both did. We both called on the gods and the goddesses together. I led it because I'm a little more experienced than him, and he is kind of like, I don't know, like, I'll just follow you, honey, which is fine. Like, I'm way heavier into witchcraft than he is, and that's just because I have more time, and this is what I am very passionate about. And so when I went to lead our ritual, it's like, okay, we are calling on Freya. And, you know, it'd be like, hail and welcome to the goddess Freya. He would then chime in with hail and welcome to the goddess Freya. And then same thing with the gods. Like, I don't know why. And it doesn't mean, like, because I'm the wife that I had to do it first. Like, there's been plenty of times that he'll lead a ritual in the past and I'll follow along in suit. Doesn't matter. So, like, I don't love gendering things in the craft. And I've mentioned it many a time. But that was just kind of where you're like, don't love it. And a lot of these rituals still feels very traditional Wicca, not his usual writing about the solitaries, doing your thing, figuring out what works for you. It was a lot more, okay, go to your high priest, go to your high priestess, go to your coven mates, and it's like, I don't have that. And so I feel like a lot of the like rituals and stuff that wasn't from his other books, which is the majority of this, they were for a coven that he was either running or had taught, and it was more aimed for that group, not necessarily to be published per se. And perhaps it was before he even had been published. You know, like, people change over time. And we'll never really know, like, when it was dated, you know? Probably, as at least the public, we won't know. And so, like, there's stuff in here that it's like, yeah, this definitely was not really reviewed by a publisher. Because, like, on page 49, in the ritual, he says, "This is the time of balance. This is the day when the hours of light and darkness are evenly divided. But it's for midsummer. They're not balanced. They're not equal. It's the opposite, because at midsummer, the light is the longest it's going to be in the year. It is the shortest night. The equinoxes is when it's balanced. And that's when an editor for a witchy company like Llewellyn should go in and adjust it and be like, did you really mean that though? Did you? How is it a time of balance? Because that's typically not this time of the year." And it's just like little stuff like that where you're like, yeah, editors, that's what they're there for sometimes. And then like some of the verbiage and stuff, again, just felt very like traditional Wicca that it's not his usual forte, you know? It just felt kind of weird. So like overall, this book I'm not like really enthused about. And I remember for years, I don't know that I've actually read it like cover to cover, to be honest, until today. But I'll flip through it to get to a ritual because you think Cunningham, you think, oh, it's going to be good. And then you get to the rituals and stuff and it's like, it falls so hard flat that it's like, oh. Because now you have to change it. And it isn't for a solitary practitioner, which again, most of his work is for. And it's very heavy traditional Wicca feels to it. It's probably not exactly like Gardnerian or Alexandrian, but like that kind of style, old Wicca, and not really what he was writing and promoting and helping to grow as a community, so that now like it's totally a valid thing to be solitary and eclectic and do whatever. And it didn't have that. And I'd always want to go there and be like, okay, what's a good ritual to do for like Mabon? Coven based, not really that great. And like for the moons, same thing. And I just, you know, it was never really a book that I really actually liked. I liked his other ones that have gone through a lot of editing and stuff. And I don't know how I feel about this. Because again, it's nice to have a little bit more work from him, but I kind of wish it had been how he wanted it to end up being published, you know? And of course the publishing houses have a say in stuff, but I don't know, it honestly just kind of felt like a cash grab to continue the name because like he's a really well-known author from this publishing house and he's continued to be a household name long after he's died. It's nearly 30 years, 29 years since he died. And so it makes sense that the publishing house would want to continue that. They want to continue making money. That's what they do. That's their job, literally. And so if you have a really big seller, but they're dead, but they have unfinished works, let's try and finish those works and get them out. And so the fact that they just like Frankensteined this together with a bunch of his other work, it's like, oh, this flow's really awesome. Yeah, it's from his other books. Like it didn't feel like the two matched very well for me, but it's probably a me problem because everyone else that has talked about this book usually raves about it for the most part, so just keep that in mind. So anyways, those are my very sickly thoughts on this book. Again, I'm not very energetic because I feel like crap, and the second I get energetic, I start coughing endlessly for like 5 minutes. Being sick is stupid. So we're gonna end it here. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. If you loved it, awesome, tell me why. And if you didn't, what are your reasons for not loving it? Or if you're indifferent, same deal. Do make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every single day. I do have a Patreon if you want to support me over there, patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Current thank you to my patron over here. Their name is floating somewhere in this general region. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.